give 40% commission, what quality they can give?
This is not the first time that Bengaluru residents have died due to glaring civic apathy in the city. Killer potholes have claimed the lives of countless motorists, and the city's IT corridor sinks with even one spell of heavy rainfall. With no lessons learnt, who will be held accountable for Bengaluru's civic mess?
All right, we have a piece of breaking news in connection with this. The Bangalore Metro Rail Corporation has now issued a statement, the latest statement on the death of the mother and child, saying that notices have been issued to the concerned contractor as well as engineers. Remember, an iron pillar was being moved today in the stretch between Puram and Hebbal, and that's when it collapsed, killing 25-year-old Tejaswini and a 2.5-year-old son Bihan. If you are in Bangalore tonight and if you are angry, just like all of us are, at what happens to the city and what has happened today to two residents there for absolutely no fault of theirs, we're opening up our phone lines. 01204341895 is where you need to call us. Who has betrayed Bengaluru? Once in 5 years, you get a chance to hold your politicians, your elected netas accountable. That chance, that time is now. Call us. The number once again, 01204341895. Opening it up to our guest, Dr. Narendra Rangappa is BJP spokesperson. Bhavya Narasimhamurthy is Karnataka Congress spokesperson. Sandeep Anirudhan is a convener for Citizens for Agenda for Bangalore. And B.S. Arun, CNN journalist, also joining us. Let me start with Dr. Rangappa. You know, it's a complete case of misplaced priorities, Dr. Rangappa. What fault was it, that of Tejaswini and her 2.5-year-old son Vihan, that the contractors and the subcontractors whose responsibility it is to have moved that iron pillar, that iron girder, it falls on these two victims. They unfortunately die. And what is the point now? You're rushing from pillar to post, statement after statement BMRCL is issuing. Ultimately, you know, whose loss is it other than that of the family? And for what fault? No fault of theirs.
This is a very unfortunate incident that should not have occurred. It is really heartbreaking because two innocent lives have been snuffed off because of some mistake done by somebody else. The BMRCL is the authority to control the quality and control the construction of the Namma Metro Rail between Puram, Hebbal and airport. This has been leased to a firm called Nagarjuna Contractors. They are responsible for the standard operative procedures that and the guidelines laid down by the Namma Metro. How should be the guidelines? When should the standard operation protocol should be observed during the traffic hours? When should the traffic be diverted? Where it should be diverted? All these things need to be investigated. Who is the culprit? Why did the cable break? So all these things needs to be investigated. Mr. Basuraj Bommai has been very proactive. He has already ordered an investigation, thorough investigation by a high-level committee. And
Dr. Rangappa, the moot question is, if there was heavy-duty construction, heavy lifting happening, why was the traffic there not stopped? Why was the traffic continuing?
Yes,
two people died. I mean, many more could have been injured because of this iron pillar. But more than that, you know, there seems to be a classic case of misplaced priorities. I want to ask Bhavya Narasimhamurthy of the Karnataka Congress. You know, even just as recently as last week, we had a BJP MP, Nalin Katil, saying, you know, drains and roads are small issues, potholes are small issues, don't ask about this. The most important issue is love jihad. Is love jihad the most important issue in Karnataka? To my mind, the most important issue is who was responsible for Tejaswini and Vihan's death. And Bengaluru, let me remind our viewers and remind our panel spokespersons today, has the highest number of road accident deaths for any metropolis in this country. Highest number of road accident deaths. Bhavya.
You're totally right. Bangalore has seen 29 deaths in the past 1.5 years due to potholes. Until now, they have not fixed the responsibility on either the engineer or a minister or even the IAS officers. So, BJP government right now, it's not just development they're not caring about. They don't even care about the lives of people. The president of a state, in an open program, says, stop asking questions about development. We have elections in the next 4 months, and they don't want us to ask them any questions based on development. Instead, they want to break our state in the name of religion. You know, they were like, two Hindu men, young men, and two Muslim young men. They died in a span of 15 days due to communal riots. And the worst part, BJP ministers, they took, the dead bodies on a procession. Although they're not supposed to do that. When, deaths happen due to communal riots, they're not supposed to, there will be section 144 there. So BJP, as of now, they don't care about people.
But ma'am, let's stick to the issue at hand. The issue today is not about communal riots. The issue today is about civic apathy. And let's face it, even when Congress was in power, when Siddaramaia's government was in power in between 2013 and 2018, the infrastructure woes in Bangalore were just as bad. It may have compounded over the last few years because of population explosion and the city's infrastructure pace not being able to keep up. But the fact is that the problems were there then also.
So, BBMP spends crores of rupees. I don't really exactly remember the amount of rupees. It's in some 100 crores, 400 crores or something.
Okay.
Yearly mark only to repair roads. But don't know where they're doing the repair and all that.
What about the faulty infrastructures that you created, madam? What about the faulty infrastructure that was created by Siddaramaiah government?
What about?
Bangalore is in a total mess because of the bad legacy left by your party.
I can't. I couldn't.
No, the
understand
BJP
what
spokesperson is asking you, what about the faulty infrastructure left behind by the Siddaramaiah government? Bengaluru is in a mess because of the infrastructure mess created by the Congress government. I don't believe for a fact though, Dr. Rangappa, I don't believe that it takes 5 years to correct any infrastructure flaws. So in 5 years, what have you done is also a moot question.
Sir, we are trying to repair the infrastructure.
You can try, but it's been 5 years. No, you can try,
mess.
it's been 5 years. How long more will you try?
There is no foresight.
Let me ask Sandeep Anirudhan, as a citizen of Bengaluru, and people are sick and tired. You look at pothole deaths. As per NCRB report 2021, the number of pothole-related deaths, road accident-related deaths in the city of Bengaluru was 654, the highest for any metropolis in that year. In 2022, we don't have the official figures yet, but unofficial figures say it's over 700 just road accident deaths in the city of Bengaluru. We have seen what happened with the rainy season back in September. The entire Marthahelli Outer Ring Road stretch completely waterlogged. We have seen today a metro pillar falling and killing a young woman and her son. I mean, this should be the #1 issue for the residents of Bengaluru and the citizens of the state. Instead, what are the politicians talking about? Hijab, halal, Tipu Sultan. Are these the things that matter? Sandeep.
Exactly. This is exactly what is on the mind of citizens. It all boils down to only one thing. We don't have a city government. There is no devolution as per 74th Amendment. Why the state governments don't do this? It was passed in 1992, 74th Amendment. The city should have a devolved, decentralized government. The state governments, whoever comes to power, BJP or Congress or JDU, they don't want to let go of the power because a lot of money is involved. They want to control it. Therefore, what happens? Now, BMRCL is an independent entity answerable only to the state government and the central government. It's not answerable to the city government. City government, we have not had elections for 3 years, so we don't know whom to ask. Then the quality of, obviously this accident has happened because the quality norms and safety norms are not being followed. If construction is happening, that area should have been barricaded. Safety norms should have been followed. That means there is no oversight, which means there is no law. It's basically lawlessness. And if you look at every aspect of Bangalore's governance, right now it is lawlessness. There is only announcement, Raj. The government keeps making hundreds of announcements. Every week there's a new announcement, new project, this, that. But nothing happens on the ground. The quality of...
No, B.S. Arun, I think Sandeep has a valid point. I mean, cities are governed by city councils, by corporations. When was the last time Bangalore had a mayor? When was the last time the BBMP, the city council house, it sat? When was the last time they had some kind of governance in the BBMP? The question that's being asked is ultimately, again, it's not just restricted to city governance. There are 28 constituencies, 28 assembly constituencies in the city of Bengaluru. I believe 7 ministers, if I'm not mistaken, Arun will know better, 7 ministers who are from the Bengaluru region in Mr. Bommai's cabinet. Has any of them today gone to the site of the crash? Has any of them gone to the house of Tejaswini and Vihan? Doesn't this matter? I mean, are these politicians above account?
Yeah, I don't think any of these MLAs, the ministers have taken any interest in today's incident. It's very unfortunate. Bangalore, as you have mentioned rightly, It doesn't have a civic government as of now for the last 3 years. Every succeeding time the matter comes up in court, the state government keeps making one single submission that the delimitation process is on, and we need more time. So even the courts are not doing much as regards the holding of elections are concerned. Now, in another 3-4 months, the state government itself, the assembly is going for elections. So we can't expect the
Yeah.
corporation elections for the next 6 months at least. That is one. And secondly, we don't have long back we have a Bangalore minister in charge of Bangalore, but for the last so many years we don't have one. The chief minister himself is the minister for Bangalore. How much time a chief minister can give for a city, although it is of the proportion of Bangalore, one of the fastest growing cities in the world. But then, there is not much time that either this chief minister or the previous chief ministers have spent, to look after the interests of Bangalore.
The sad reality is, and Arun, you may agree or disagree with this, I think the last major infrastructure push that we saw in Bengaluru was 20 years ago when S.M. Krishna was chief minister. Sadly, for the last 20 years, whoever was the chief minister, whether Yediyurappa was chief minister, Kumaraswamy was chief minister, Siddaramaiah was chief minister, Mr. Bommai is chief minister, I'm not seeing any big ticket push for infrastructure and for traffic congestion easing and for just better quality of life in Bengaluru. Yes, of course, the population has increased manifold in the last 20 years. No doubt about it. The congestion has increased manifold in the last 20 years. Obviously, no government can change it overnight. But Dr. Rangappa, you owe it to the citizens of Bengaluru. Yes, 28 seats may not be a loss. It's only 10% of the entire strength of the assembly. But it is the capital. It is the revenue cash cow of the state. And look at the quality of life of the people of Bengaluru. They're suffering today. Today, what will you tell the families of Tejaswini and Vihan? What will you tell them?
Sir, it is very unfortunate that it should not have happened. But let me also bring it to your notice and to our opponents' notice that 30,000 crores have been sanctioned for infrastructure development in Bangalore, and the tender is going to happen next month. 30,000 crores, sir. Maximum of these money is being used to the correction of infrastructure failure, which has been done by the Congress without any forethought, without any planning, and total utter nonsense. So we need to decongest the traffic by making an outer ring road. Then we have a outer railroad system that we are going to come up with very soon. Mr. Modi had come and announced the project, and the project is going to take place in a couple of months. So the BJP government is trying extra hard to correct the deficiencies and bring it to a new condition where we can decongest the traffic and take safety norms to the maximum limits.
No, Bhavya Narasimhamurthy, again, whether Congress was in power, whether BJP is in power, whether it is lakes overflowing, we've seen what happened in Bengaluru. We have seen the rampant construction that has happened on lake beds. We have seen the number of pothole deaths, like I said, in 2021, 654, the highest for any metropolis in the country. And in 2022, the unofficial figures are 700 Bangaloreans, 700 people have lost their lives because of road accidents in 2022. Why is this not the number one issue? The reason why this is not the number one issue is none of the politicians who are sitting in Vidhan Sabha have a stake in what's happening in Bengaluru. It's only 28 seats at the end of the day. You got a remaining 200 seats from the rest of the state. That's what matters.
So the problem with BJP is they don't believe in decentralization. BBMP elections are due for the past 2 years. In Jan 2020, they were supposed to conduct the elections, but they are not ready to conduct the elections. They keep postponing in the name of delimitation, altering the boundaries. Then they purposely did some reservation changes, trying to attack Congress. And it keeps going to the court, and they just want to postpone because they know if they conduct elections, Congress will win, majority of the seats. Because of their
let me one second. Let me move away from the politicians. One second. Let me get our callers in. The number is flashing on your screen. I want to go to our first caller. Chandra is calling us from Chennai. Chandra, good evening. What do you think is the reason for Bangalore's crumbling infrastructure? Who should be held accountable?
You have very clearly explained the reason. I have nothing more to add. But one thing I can tell you, because all the time the media is also responsible for highlighting all irrelevant, irresponsible useless news items. 24/7 you are giving importance to those things, and these people are also getting encouraged. So unless the media plays a very proactive role, I'm afraid nothing is going to change in this country. Of course, all over the world it is the same thing, but in our country it is, of late I'm finding it, sorry to say, it is on the very high side. Most insignificant, irresponsible, irrelevant things are being highlighted the whole day. As you rightly said, no relevant issues, economic issues, social issues, nothing is being discussed because there is no scope. Nobody is interested also. You people have to do a monologue. Nobody will come to your show if you say these are the topics. It is another no also. And especially in Bangalore, I'm very sorry to say, in the recent years, it has become horrible. Again and again, as you rightly said, Tipu and this thing and love jihad and all all most irresponsible things. And I'm telling you, no politician is serious, Mr. Jacob. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Unless this politicians become serious and the voters become quite aware of the reality, nothing is going to change. Same story will, go on.
I am convinced today, if you were to take the responsibility for today's accident should be fixed at the top. It should not just be, the subcontractor or the engineer there at the site. The decision to allow the traffic to continue while there was heavy duty work happening, who took that decision? That was not taken by an engineer. That was not taken by some subcontractor. That was taken at the highest level. Accountability needs to be fixed at the highest level. Let me get in Ram Chandran, who's calling us from Bengaluru. Ram Chandran, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. See, the point is basically this is all amounts to surveillance. There is a police surveillance is only concentrating on taking care of the VIPs, and even the road traffic is also only taking care of the VIPs. Now you have got the CCTV which is monitoring the traffic. But actually when it comes to the facilitating the people's traffic and their comfort, police on the street is hardly there. This is all the problem. If they are there, accountability will be there by all the people, whether it is construction or traffic or everything. Things will be fine. That's
all right. Thank you for your inputs. It has come to a stage where Bengaluru, the Silicon City, the IT city, is today losing out to other competitive cities, whether it's Hyderabad, whether it is Chennai, which never used to be the case 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago for that matter. Let me get in one more caller and then I'll round off with final comments from our guest. Devendra is calling us from Hyderabad. Mr. Devendra, good evening.
Good evening, sir. This is Devendra from Hyderabad.
Yeah.
See, this is very dangerous things are going around. These contractors are not taking any care. Government is not taking any care of the public. And the public are suffering very, 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 very much. And we are dying. Only when we die, this news comes on your news channels and there. Then after 2 days, it will go. Last 10 days, it was a accident in Delhi.
Yeah.
Then you showed every day, you showed that, and you entirely poked and that went off. Now this from the morning, I am seeing all the news. Only this news is going on. And in the night at 11 o'clock, there was a flight hijack. Only you are showing a criminal one, that one. Now, just now that another spokesman has spoken that very nicely. You are not giving any input of the revenue or anything else. Only fraud. He has proven, he has done fraud. No results. Ultimately, our time we are wasting seeing all these 24 channels, and we are losing our brain memory. And all politicians are doing the same thing. So
all right, Mr. Devendra, thank you for your call. But ultimately, I think I firmly believe that media should play its role in public service. It is the media that is highlighting this case of absolute civic apathy that we saw in Bengaluru today. And so it should, because that is perhaps the only pressure point that we have in our political system today against elected MLAs and ministers, and even for that matter, councilmen and of course people from the BBMP. Chandrasekhar is our last caller from Bangalore, and then I'll give the final word to B.S. Aronia. Chandrasekhar, good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. First and foremost, I would like to congratulate you for making this an important issue. And what is really happening is, you talk of so many ministers, so many people, everybody is playing politics. And this doesn't apply to them because they go in a zone where there is nobody and everything is checked. Policemen keep watching. They do not know the problems. First and foremost, the politician should be made to travel like any other ordinary citizen or like any other citizen, so that they understand where the pothole is, how it goes, and there should not be like all the vehicles stopped just for one person to be moving around.
Okay. All right, Chandrasekhar, thank you for your call. I'll give the final word to BS Arun. BS, you know, yes, one problem is absolutely that lack of accountability of the elected representatives, whether it is ministers in the cabinet, whether it is MLAs from Bangalore, but also at one level, you know, I remember the last election, the last assembly election that happened, the 28 constituencies in Bangalore had the lowest voter turnout. It was less than 50%. So as long as, you know, Bangaloreans also don't come out and vote in large numbers and make this the #1 issue, you will always have takers for hijab and halal and tipu.
Absolutely, Zaka. In fact, I will just add one more thing. You mentioned about the assembly election, voting percentage. It is even worse when it comes to corporation elections.
Correct.
You know, in Bangalore, just about 20 to 30% of voting. You know, is this not the responsibility of the citizens themselves to go and vote, elect whoever you want? But then when you elect people, this is the kind of representatives that you get. You deserve what you get.
All right.
This is an abominable practice being made by our citizens of Bangalore year in and year out. And for the, whenever the elections are held, this is the state of affairs.
Okay,
one thing,
B.S.
Zaka, I
Arun,
just want to
Dr.
mention one
Rangappa, and of course Bhavya, who joined us earlier. Thank you very much. You know, we're going to put this in focus, and it's the apt time because Karnataka is going to polls in the next couple of months. So this is going to be our single biggest focus. It is going to be people's well-being. It's going to be quality of life. It's going to be about your issues, because Bangaloreans, as indeed, but Delhiites and Mumbaikars deserve better than the kind of governance that we're getting right now. Meanwhile, talking about infrastructure woes, there is high drama right now happening in Joshimath, where a hotel which has developed cracks is all set to be demolished. Protesters have gathered outside the hotel. They are objecting to the demolition orders. Remember, there are 2 hotels out of these 600 plus buildings. Many homes have developed cracks. Many of them have tilted as well. And we're going to show you those pictures of how there are people protesting against the demolition order that is to be implemented by the district authorities, by the local authorities there. Nikhil Lakhwani has more details on this. See, again, this is the other problem, Nikhil, that people, even when they are given repeated warnings, and they know, everyone knows that this commercial structure will not stand. The cracks have widened. It's in fact tilting to one side. It needs to be demolished. People there are protesting.
So Zaka, we will start our report with the visuals at the very first place. This is the commotion that we are reporting from outside the hotels, which are set to be demolished. You can see a huge gathering of the locals is now present outside the hotels, which are set to be demolished. So a while back, a team of CBRI was present here. They had paid a visit. A pre-demolition exercise also took place, where the scanning of entire building happened by all the experts. And today, since morning, a team of SDRF was already on standby mode. And now you can see many of the protesters are now present outside the hotels, where they are raising slogans in huge number. And also the entire town, Joshimath, faces a blackout. There is no electricity in entire town. The light which you are seeing is off the camera because of the poles which are disconnected for the demolition exercise. This is the reason why there is no electricity, Zaka, in entire Joshimath town. But now this is the anger which is now coming out of all the locals. You can see a huge gathering can be seen, and in fact on the other floors as well, we can see that many of the people have gathered here. They are raising slogans against the police deployment as well, which is present right outside the hotel. And at the same time, Zaka, they are also angry with the NTPC project, which is said to be, as per the locals, that this is the main reason of concern, and this is the main reason behind all the activities which are currently underway in the town.
Nikhil, you know, if you can show our viewers once again that hotel, it's an orange-colored building. It is tilting to one side. It is in fact knocking on the building next door. It has got a structural damage. There's no way you can, conduct commercial activity in that hotel. And rightfully, the authorities are saying, you know, the hotel has to be demolished, because otherwise it's a danger to the people who will be going in and going out. But the people there are refusing to heed to that. What exactly is the nub of the problem? Are they saying that, you know, the notices have been issued late, or that this is rearguard action by the administration? They should have been warned earlier. or they want compensation. What exactly are they protesting against? Because I shudder to believe that anyone would put their own life in harm's way, and going in and out of that building is putting yourself in harm's way.
So, Zaka, there are a couple of reasons why the affected people are angry with the district administration. And also, at the same time, I would urge my camera person to show the visuals as well, to pan on the hotel, where the gap between the two buildings to hotel is almost negligible. Sir, एक बार visual दिखाते रहिए आप cracks वगैरह के भी. So, as far as the details are concerned, we have spoken to the owner of the hotels as well earlier this morning, and they have told us that no official communication has been received to them by the district administration. And a while back, Zaka, we had a word with the DM Chamoli, who is nodal officer of entire administrative activities which are currently unfolding in Joshimath area, Himanshu Khurana. He has spoken exclusively to CNN News 18. He has said that notices have been served to all the stakeholders, particularly the owner of these two hotels, under the Disaster Management Act. So also, as far as the compensation is concerned, this is the point of focus where the anger is all about. They are saying that the district administration so far has not communicated as to what is the solution that is going to be given to them by the administration, by the state government. At the same time, they are not communicated as to how the things are going to take place in the days or in the times to come.
All right, Nikhil, we'll leave it at that. We'll see how this story plays out there in Joshimath. This is right now demolition orders for 2 commercial buildings, 2 hotels, and the locals there are protesting against that. We'll keep an eye out on that. That's a wrap. Ridhima joining you with the biggest exclusive.
Good evening. Thanks a lot for staying with us here at CNN News 18. I'm Ridhima Bhatnagar. The film Kashmir Files has been in news ever since it was released. A film that depicts the exodus and genocide of Kashmiri Pandits was criticized by the opposition in the country, calling it far from reality. It was called vulgar and a propaganda at the closing ceremony of IFFI in Goa in 2022 by Israeli filmmaker Nadu. Today, the filmmaker of Kashmir Files, Vivek Agnihotri, has claimed that the film has entered the Oscar race. Speaking to us here at CNN News 18, Vivek Agnihotri said he was happy about the news and that it's a big blow to the critics of the film. As of now, Kashmir Files has been listed on the Oscars reminder list. Now, the Oscar reminder list is a list of productions eligible for the 95th Academy Awards, and there are 347 films on this particular list. So even though a nomination is still far, according to the filmmaker, this is a step in the right direction to give the Kashmiri Pandits and Hindus their due, which has been long denied.
वो खुद भागे गवर्नर से मिलने जहाँ शिव सरस्वती ऋषि कश्यप हुए वो कश्मीर हमारा कश्मीर के मसले का एक ही हल
Kashmir has never been an integral part of India, and this is a historical fact.
इसके 32 एपिसोड आने चाहिए 22 इयर्स के 32 एपिसोड
एक ही आवाज बुलंद होगी बच्चा बच्चा कहेगा आजादी तो संगवाद से आजादी 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 आजादी
So before I talk to you about the politics around the film and the various controversies it has seen, let's first listen in to what Israeli filmmaker Nadav Lapid had to say at the closing ceremony of IFFI in December last year.
All of us disturbed and shocked by the movie Kashmir Files that felt to us like a propaganda vulgar movie inappropriate for an artistic competitive section of such a prestigious film festival.
But this wasn't the only remark that created quite a stir. Let me also now talk to you about the various other comments that we've seen, especially as far as the opposition in the country is concerned. Let's break down the details. Let's first begin with what we had heard from the Chhattisgarh Chief Minister Bhupesh Baghel, who had gone on to say at that time, half-truths and violence has been depicted as far as this film is concerned. He wasn't alone. If you talk to voices about from the valley, NC Chief Farooq Abdullah had gone on to say it's a baseless movie that's spreading hate in Kashmir. That was not all. The other voices that we also saw at that time was from the Congress and the Aam Aadmi Party as well. Sachin Sawant of the Congress had said that the BJP is using the film to spread hatred. But as I said, these voices weren't isolated. There were many of them. Again, if you go back to some voices within the valley, Mehbooba Mufti, who's the PDP chief, had also said that the government is weaponizing the pain of Kashmiri Pandits. So today, the filmmaker and the entire team at Kashmir Files, they're saying we're vindicated. This is just first step in the right direction. As I said, the team behind Kashmir Files today is calling just the mentioning of the film itself in the reminder list a first step in the right direction. I spoke to actor Anupam Kher earlier in the day, who has been the face of the film, who's acted in the film, and he's also spoken time and again about the atrocities on Kashmiri Pandits. Let's listen in. Thank you so much for taking our time and joining us here on CNN News 18. How are you feeling today? The fact that the film finds a mention, you also find a mention as far as the best actor list is concerned.
Well, it's a great feeling. I think we are far away from nomination and other process, but I think the first step has taken place and we need to celebrate the first step. It's a humbling feeling, and or you can't keep under wraps a truth which is there. They are not important in the scheme of things. There are people who are criticizers and there are people who are doers. Within 3 months he was supposed to leave that house and whatever he could put in a Fiat car, he left, and after 3 years he died because of the tragedy. So it's a film like that, and yeah, I think it's today let's sort of take the first step has been taken. Let's celebrate that. Let's feel happy. Let's feel, means, as I told you, I'm a member of Academy. That in itself I feel that it's a great thing to have.
So the question that we're asking this evening is Kashmir Files in the Oscar race. What will the lobby say today? Let me also now bring in our guest to understand what does this mean for the film and also what does this mean for its critics. We have the BJP spokesperson Tuhin Sinha, we have political strategist George Kurian, we also have Amit Raina, spokesperson Roots in Kashmir and Kashmiri activist. We also have Majid Haidari, senior journalist. Good to have all of you on the broadcast with us. Majid Haidari, I'd like to begin the conversation with you. What do you have to say today? You know, whether you liked the film, not liked the film, you couldn't deny what the film was depicting. And considering the fact that Kashmir Files finds itself in that reminder list as far as the Academy is concerned, the filmmakers or the intent of the film must have done something right. Okay, we seem to have lost that connection with Majid Haidari, but George Kurian, let me take that same question to you. As I said, ever since the film released, there were a lot of critics. You can like a film, you can not like a film. That's your, own opinion, personal opinion. But can you deny events that took place? And today the filmmakers are saying we stand vindictive. George, can you hear me? Okay, we seem to have lost George's connection as well. But Tuhin, let me begin the conversation with you then, at least if you can hear me as far as the panel is concerned. How do you react to the claim that is being made by Vivek Agnihotri that, look, it's not just us, even the Academy is realizing the intent of the film and it's reached a global stage?
Well, good evening, Ridhima. It is a big moment for the entire Kashmiri Pandit community. It is a big moment for most of the country, which stood by the community through the worst of their sufferings. And it's a reality check for all those people who ran down the movie, including your two panelists who have now disappeared. And that is how the critics of this movie will soon disappear. Because people like Kejriwal, who mocked the suffering of Kashmiri Pandits, people like Mehbooba Mufti and Farooq Abdullah, who tried to trivialize what was shown in the reality that was shown in the movie. I think it's a big slap on the faces of all of these people. Having said that, at the end of the day, we have a long way to go, and hopefully, once the elections take place in Kashmir later this year, we will probably come closer to a complete resolution. But this is a big moment and a big slap for the genocide deniers.
Hello, PCR.
And also,
anything from the side of the room.
Toyin, we can hear you. Go ahead.
And also, the important point over here is that all those people who somehow ridiculed the movie but tacitly supporting radicalization, which is a huge problem in the world today. So I think, if this movie does make it to the Oscar, it will be a slap on the face of all those political parties, not just in India, but across the globe, who today have lent their tacit support to radical forces, because today, the biggest threat to the world is from the radicalized forces. And that applies as much to India as to Europe.
I see George Kurian and Majid Hydari both back with us now. Majid, let me try this one more time. Now, if you heard what Toyin is saying, and this is essentially what the filmmakers and others associated with the film also is saying, and this is what I was asking you earlier. You can like a movie, you can dislike a movie, but can you really deny events that have happened? What does this then mean for genocide deniers? Today, even the Academy is recognizing the intent and the rationale behind the film. Majid?
Yeah. See, Madam, Tuhin Sinha is a very learned person, and he must be knowing the very popular saying that Abhi Dilli Dur hai. And why I say so? Because the movie is yet to be nominated for the Oscars, and I don't think and I don't believe that there is any category for Islamophobia in the Oscars. The Hollywood people are very much against religious politics, looking at movies through the prism of religion, much of it's happening in our country through forces like Saffron Forces, Bajrang Dal, blah, blah, blah. You don't have any Bajrang Dal in Hollywood. So I don't find any scope.
Okay, we seem to be having a bit of an issue as far as Majid Hydari's connection is concerned. But George, I want to understand from you, if, as I said, you like a movie, you don't like a movie, but you have to applaud the fact that it is being appreciated elsewhere as well. And this is something similar that we had raised when the entire IFI controversy happened as well. When the IFI controversy happened, when Nadu Lipit came out and said this is vulgar, this is propaganda, you saw the opposition up in arms and saying this is exactly what we were saying. The next day, you had the other jury members coming out and saying that no, this is not what the jury thought, this was just a personal opinion. Then the critics said that let's see if this film can actually reach a global stage. Today, if you look at the website as far as the Academy Awards are concerned, on the reminder list, the Kashmir Files does find a mention. Can you still continue to criticize it?
Well, Ridhima, let me first congratulate Vivek Agnihotri for his nomination for the Oscars, and the Kashmir Files may also go on to win the Oscars. Having said that, one cannot deny the fact and take away. There are small portions of truth, no doubt, with all the films that Vivek goes on to make, but he goes on and weaves it with a false propaganda to help the ruling dispensation to be very true. And all his movies are actually, kind of.
No, but George, you can either say that it's either truth or you can say that this is propaganda. You can't sit on the fence, say that there is some truth, but it is still propaganda. Because as I said, as far as the movie is concerned, I will also buy the argument when you say it's exaggerated, because that's the liberty as far as the filmmaker is concerned. You can't deny it, and that's been the argument since day one. So today it becomes very convenient when you say that yes, some part of it is truth, but it's, propaganda. It can't be both. And this is where I want to bring in Amit Raina as well. Amit Raina, as I said, you like a film, you don't like a film. That's okay. You can't deny something that impacted thousands of families and still continues to impact them.
See, this film has always rattled the leftists. This film has always rattled the Islamists. And this film has always rattled the apologists. Even when you look at IFI award, the jury Nadav, instead of commenting on the technical aspects of the movie, chose a different route and questioned the motive of the film. Called it a propaganda, which was not his prerogative, which was not part of his brief. But he still chose to take that path. And again today, there are people who have zero understanding on technical aspects of the film, like Majid Hydari, but they still go and claim that this will not win an Oscar. It may win an Oscar, it may not win an Oscar. I am not a technical guy to make a comment on that. But it has rattled every person who supports jihad, who supports Islamic radicalization, and that is what this movie has done. It is a slap today on every face, because it has been shortlisted at Oscar, and people across the globe will now see what Islamic radicalization and fanatism has done to a minuscule community in Kashmir. If it was to Yazdis in Syria and Yemen, it is to what Islamic radicalization has done to a minuscule community called Kashmir in Kashmir, and that is what is going to get exposed, and that is what rattles them the most. Film may be bad, film may be great. I am not a movie expert, so I cannot make a comment on that. But any probability of it winning an Oscar has rattled them, and you can see in today Mr. Kurian's speech, and you can see the way Majid Hydari reacted.
Okay, I understand the point that you're making, Amit Raina, but as far as what's happened today, Tuhin, and this is where I want to bring you back in the conversation, many saying that aren't you already jumping the gun? Because Vivek Agnihotri is saying that the film has entered the Oscar race. If you look at what's happened on paper, it's only been mentioned as far as the reminder list is concerned, which does not mean that it's been shortlisted or it's gotten a nomination. There are over 300 other films that find a mention. This is just an eligibility criteria.
I'm not jumping the gun. I think, the producers may be a little more excited than we are. As a political party, we support the idea behind the movie, which is what we have made it very clear. And because the movie per se, apart from what it has depicted, apart from what was depicted in the movie, it also, I think the person has a mental problem. If you can just...
Majid, let's not indulge in such behavior. Let's let that Tuhin make his point. I'll come to you as well. One sec. Majid, give me 30 seconds. Let Tuhin make his point. Tuhin.
I understand mental health is a big issue, but I find it very difficult to be on a show where somebody, starts behaving in a psychotic way. Especially, how can somebody laugh on a tragedy? The genocide of lakhs of people. If this is how Kashmiris trivialize it, they prove it through Kashmiris like Khalid, to make it very specific. People like Majid Hydari are a threat to modern Kashmir, because this is how they trivialize a tragedy which took place 3 decades ago. And on this show, with his boorish and cheap behavior, he has again highlighted why a movie like this should be made again and again, so that...
Can I get 30 seconds?
Majid Hydari, the point that Tuhin and others are making, that aren't you falling in your own trap? Aren't you falling in your own trap? First, you deny that there was a genocide. Aren't you mocking the tragedy of thousands that still continue to suffer?
Madam, thankfully,
Majid.
got some clear audio, and I was about to burst into laughter, because the problem is that we have a party in place who is running the country, and Tuhin Sinha ji is their spokesperson, and they say we support one movie and they call for ban of another movie. I mean, this government and this party is more into banning movies or supporting movies, and they have forgotten the country. That is
no, forget what the BJP is doing. I'm also running out of time. Just tell me, what are the critics going to say who said that this movie is exaggerated, it's far from reality, it's not ever going to reach any global stage? It has.
No, this party has a sardonic sense of filmography. They have boycotted and called for a ban of Pathan only because of Besharam Rang. So their ideology is all about movie making. They have forgotten the reality that 6,000 families in Uttarakhand are at the verge of threat to their lives. And they are this time discussing that, we support Kashmir.
Okay, Tuhin, 30 seconds.
No, when have we called for a ban on Pathan? Like I said, he has some issues, mental issues, and he mixes up issues on all the shows. Show me one authorized
Okay,
BJP.
so the question that is being raised by the filmmakers in the BJP is that if you say it's far from reality, give us specific proof. The opposition and critics continue to say that you're celebrating far too early. Unfortunately, I will have to leave that conversation there. I'd like to thank all our guests. We quickly want to shift our focus to what's taking place in Joshimath, because high drama playing out in Joshimath, where a hotel which has now developed more cracks, is all set to be demolished. Protesters have now gathered outside the hotel. and they're objecting to the demolition orders. Let's take a look at some ground reports that we're getting.
जो एक टाइम से का सेटलमेंट है वो किया जाए और यहाँ पर जो तमाम लोग हैं मोर और लेस सबकी यही मांग है कि बद्रीनाथ के तर्ज पे यहाँ पर कंपनसेशन डिसाइड हो, मुआवजे इनको बताए जाए और उसके बाद डिमोलिशन का जो काम है वो करें। क्योंकि जब हम यहाँ पर ये बात करें, ये 2 बिल्डिंग तो आपको नजर जरूर आ रही है, पर बात सिर्फ 2 बिल्डिंग की नहीं है। इसके पीछे भी तमाम जो होटल आपको नजर आ रहे हैं, पीछे जो रिहाइश नजर आ रही है, इन सब की एक ही मांग है। इनका कहना है कि ये आपदा नहीं है, ये बनाई गई, ये मानव निर्मित आपदा है। तब लगातार जोशीमठ के जो लोग हैं वो एनटीपीसी के हाइड्रो प्रोजेक्ट पर उंगलियां उठाते रहे हैं और उनका यहाँ पर ये भी कहना है कि ये आपदा नहीं है, ये मानव निर्मित जिस तरीके से टनल खोदा गया, जो आरोप लगातार स्थानीय लोग लगाते हैं कि ब्लास्टिंग की गई जिसकी वजह से आज ये हालत हुई है, तो इनका कहना है कि ऐसे में हर्जाना इनसे नहीं लिया जाना चाहिए बल्कि इनको मुआवजा दिया जाना चाहिए। तस्वीरें फिर एक बार आपको दिखाऊं, ये होटल के बाहर की तस्वीरें जहां पर एक तरफ पुलिस के तमाम लोग, एक महकमा नजर आ रहा है, दूसरी तरफ जो लोग जिनके घर यहां पर हैं उनकी तस्वीरें आप देख रहे हैं जो लगातार प्रदर्शन कर रहे हैं। मांग केवल एक कि बद्रीनाथ की तर्ज पर बद्रीनाथ में जिस तरीके से ड्रीम प्रोजेक्ट को बनाने के लिए कंपनसेशन दिए गए हैं। और देखिए अभी यहाँ पर देखिए पुलिस जो है वो समझाने की कोशिश कर रही है। पुलिस के जो आला अफसर हैं वो बात कर रहे हैं, प्रोटेस्टर्स से बात कर रहे हैं। प्रोटेस्टर्स बेहद गर्म नजर आ रहे हैं। लगातार अभी इन्हीं शख्स से हमने बात आपको सुनाई थी जिनका कहना था कि रात के वक्त डकैतों की तरह डिमोलिश करने के लिए क्यों आई है पुलिस, दिन के वक्त ये करा जाता और ऐसे में लगातार सेटल करने की कोशिश, पुलिस लगातार बात करने की कोशिश की जा रही है। देखिए जो दूसरे होटल की ओनर यहाँ पर मालकिन है वो भी यहाँ पर बात सुन रही है, बात इनकी करने की कोशिश लगातार समझाने की कोशिश की जा रही है। अभी यही तरीका है केवल कि क्या क्या देखिए थोड़ी बात सुनने की कोशिश करते हैं कि क्या बातचीत हो रही है। दोनों
पर आप तुम्हारे से क्या भरोसा, पुलिस का क्या भरोसा लाता है पुलिस को चंद्रमा से आई है क्या? बिल्कुल आ जाएगी जी बैरिकेड के बाहर रहेंगे। नगर पालिका में बैठक हुई, हमने 9 सूत्रें मांगे रखी, उन्होंने कहा हमें दोबारा बात हो रही है। हम ये बोल रहे हैं क्या हम देखिए बिल्कुल आपकी बात से सहमत है। पुलिस अरे बेटा
वार्ता में मैं भी चलूंगी आगे।
हम नहीं सानिए मतलब रात में नहीं सुना जाएगा। हम वार्ता के बाद तय होगा तब कार्रवाई होगी।
हम
यहाँ पे नहीं रहे,
हम चाहते हैं डीएम साहब यहाँ आए, हमारा दुख झेले।
यहाँ पर नहीं, वहाँ बैठक होगी। हमारे बीच चमोली बर्बाद।
चलिए तो यहाँ पर आप देखिए कि मोटे तौर पर बात ये हो रही है कि देखिए पुलिस वाले इनको ये कह रहे हैं कि आप यहाँ से बाहर निकलिए और डिमोलिशन आपसे वार्ता किए बिना नहीं होगा, लेकिन लोग जो है वो कह रहे हैं कि लोग भी बाहर होंगे और पुलिस भी बाहर होगी, यहाँ कोई नहीं होगा क्योंकि लोगों को डर है कि जब वो यहाँ से निकल जाएंगे तो रातों रात डिमोलिशमेंट ना कर दिया जाए। लोग ये भी डिमांड कर रहे हैं कि डीएम को यहाँ पर बुलाया जाए बातचीत करने के लिए, लेकिन पुलिस अपनी तरफ से फिलहाल यहाँ पर टॉकीज करने की बात कर रही है, ईज करने की बात कर रही है। ये देखिए ये मलारी इनके ओनर है, ये यहाँ पर दोनों से कुछ बात करने आए हैं। बताइए सर।
रुक जाओ ऐसे सर जो इनसे प्रशासन से ये तय हुआ है हमारे
So even as evacuation is in full swing, there is also high drama playing out in Joshimath in front of hotels where are all set to be demolished. This of course is a story that we'll keep tracking very, very closely. But for now, it's a wrap from my side. Plain Speak is up next.
Welcome everyone. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. The Tamil Nadu government versus the Governor Rao has escalated to full-blown crass politics. Posters targeting the governor and asking him to get out trended today after DMK and supporting allies demanded that Governor R.N. Ravi should be recalled or ousted. Earlier, the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Stalin even moved a resolution against the governor in the assembly. Obviously, no resolution or state government pressure can take away the powers of the office of the governor. The governor is the direct appointee of the president. Even courts cannot take back the appointment of a governor. The governor is also very clearly an agent of the central government. There is no doubt about that. So when the Stalin government is up in arms against the governor being acting as an agent, quote unquote, of the central government. Is that not a redundant fight or a moot point? The state government doesn't really need to like the state governor or agree with her. But the governor is also only a nominal head with no real powers. The real powers are in fact vested with the chief minister and the council of ministers. In that sense, both, even if holding differing views, have to work together and respect each other. But the latest episode in Tamil Nadu is a firm reminder of the ideological war currently underway in the state, where Dravidian politics versus national politics are colliding. Is the governor crossing the line by not reading out, for example, the state government mandated speech in the assembly? Or is the state government jittery in handling a governor who's not towing their line blindly and is instead challenging their worldview? We take that question to our guests in just a bit. First, take a look at how the row between the governor and the state government really escalated. So it all started where the governor in a speech said that Tamilagam suits the state better as a name than the current Tamil Nadu. He even went on to term Dravidian politics as regressive, something of course that the DMK hit back against. The governor then went on to skip certain parts of a written speech at the start of the assembly session, especially parts referring to Dravidian model. The chief minister then, while the governor was present in the assembly, moved a resolution to remove the quote unprepared remarks made by him, and only the mandated prepared speech should be kept on record. The governor walked out even as the chief minister was speaking, even before the national anthem was played, effectively signalling that the program is over. That row got even bigger when the governor issued an invite for a program from his office. Take a look at an old invite before this row and the new one that has been issued now. The new one doesn't have the state emblem, that is replaced by the union government emblem. Furthermore, the previous invite said Tamil Nadu governor, while the new invite refers to the governor as the governor of Tamilagam. So no surprise, this has infuriated the DMK and the allies even more. So the governor office going ahead with his chosen preferred name for the state emblem which is there on that one is also replaced by the central government emblem, and Tamil Nadu is replaced by Tamilagam. These posters asking the governor to get out, targeting the governor, then started trending online. Some of them surfaced in Chennai as well. The DMK making no two bones about the fact that they do not want RN Ravi to continue. These posters have come out which clearly ask for the governor to get out, and of course this turned out to be a hashtag promoted on social media as well. So the big question we ask today is, which of the side is erring here? Is the governor crossing the line, or is the government jittery in the face of a challenge?
அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம்.
There is a difference between the central government and the state government. You are there to stand by the central government.
இந்தியாவிலே நம்பர் 1 முதலமைச்சர் என்றால் நம்முடைய தலைவர் அவர்கள்தான். அவருக்கு நீங்கள் எல்லாம் இளைஞர்கள் எல்லாம் நீங்கள் துணை நிற்க வேண்டும், உங்களுடைய ஆதரவை கொடுக்க வேண்டும் என்று கேட்டுக்கொண்டு
Let's go across to the guests who are joining us. Narayan Tirupati is Vice President, BJP Tamil Nadu. Syed Hafiz is DMK spokesperson. Suman Siraman, political analyst. S. Muralidharan, political analyst. And I'm also joined by C.B. Pandey, who served as a former legal advisor to Governor of Uttar Pradesh. He's also former justice. So let me in fact go across to C.B. Pandey first up, because the big question that all of us are wondering about is, has the governor crossed the line when not reading out the prepared draft of the speech given to him by the state government? Is that not mandated for the governor to do, or does he have discretion even here? Uttar Pradesh is also former justice.
Can't say that he has crossed the border, he violated any constitutional provision.
Okay.
In fact, there is no such provision in the Constitution where he is required to read the government statement before a house, and that should be whatever the state government has written. There is no constitutional provision. It is simply a tradition which is followed in democracy in India, because we have adopted the democracy system of a British system. And in British system, this is prevalent. Therefore, in India also, we adopted that system, and it is as a customary, or it's a tradition which they follow. So you can't say that he has acted against the constitution. But at the same time, if the tradition are there, so my point of view, that governor being the executive head of the state should follow the traditions also, because after all he is acting as a head of the state, not as an opposition leader or something beyond what the government. So therefore, whatever the government say, he should follow it. Yes.
Okay. What do you also make, Mr. Pandey, of the fact that as far as his invite is concerned, the governor's office invite is concerned, the state emblem is no longer there, the union government emblem has been put, and even the name of the state, which he very publicly expressed the fact that Tamilagam is a better name for Tamil Nadu and not the current name. Even Tamil Nadu has been replaced by his chosen or more preferred name for the state. Do you believe that this is also in some ways needless confrontation with the current government of the state?
Definitely it is a confrontation, because in the constitutional first schedule, the name of the state of Tamil Nadu is mentioned as a state Tamil Nadu, as a Tamil Nadu. So now, so long that in the constitution, Tamil Nadu has been mentioned. So he is the governor of state of Tamil Nadu. So therefore, he can't say that some other, as a governor in official capacity, he can't say that he's not a governor and some other name which is not a constitutional name, and he should be known by that. He's known by that name as a governor of that state. So you think it's not, it's definitely against the provision of the constitution. And secondly, he is the head of a state. He's the head of the Tamil Nadu state. Therefore, he's bound by emblem used by that state. He can't use the emblem of central government. Whenever he will act in an official capacity, he should abide by the constitutional provision, which says that he is the governor of the state of Tamil Nadu.
Yeah. Let me then bring in, I think we're just fixing a link with Narayan Tirupati, but S. Muralidharan, political analyst, is also with us. Given what, an expert is saying, he's obviously former justice, he's served as a legal advisor to a governor formerly. Is this not needless confrontation by Governor R.N. Ravi? You may have a point of view. He expressed that point of view when he talked about Tamil Nadu versus Tamilagam. He may even have a point of view on what Dravidian politics is doing to the state and whether it's good or bad. But, to change the name of the state, that's crossing a line.
No, Shivani, I will not agree with on that. Tamilagam is a word which been used widely. It is not something new, Tamil Nadu or Tamilagam. Tamilagam is probably the short form or the colloquial form of Tamil Nadu. In fact, if you go back in the freebies issued by the DMK government, especially the televisions and the mixie, grinder, whatever, you will always see it as Tamilagam. It's Tamilagam and the government, it's a gift from the Tamilagam government.
Okay.
So this has been in, it's been in use. There's nothing wrong in it. I don't see anything wrong. But this friction is because of the sequence of events, what happened yesterday. See, when he started delivering the speech, first of all, he was delivering the speech in Tamil. I'm sure everyone should have felt, happy about it and proud that, the governor who's come all the way from Bihar is speaking Tamil now. So I think they should have respected that, but they did not do that. The fringe elements of TMK, the alliance, they tried to heckle him.
Yeah.
They literally interrupted him. That is actually a violation of the code of conduct in a governor's address. One. Second is, after that, he has clarified today that certain portions, certain words in that written statement were not acceptable to him because it gives sort of a secessionist or separatist kind of idea. So he said, I'm not going to use this, and he had clarified it. So the government said that, no, it's already gone for publishing. So when you speak, you can always change it and speak. But I think they expected this, so they had this resolution in hand. Because to pass a resolution, they needed only some 8 minutes. So it was looking like, everything was pre-planned by the DMK just to target the governor. And I think whatever reaction we see today is in line with that. So
yeah, I think the reaction that has come vis-a-vis the posters, I'm going to come to that in just a bit, because that is certainly unsavory for a party in power. But let me go across to Syed Hafiz, who's the DMK spokesperson. First, when the governor starts making his speech, even before you realize that he has skipped out certain parts of the speech, there are DMK representatives, members of assembly who are heckling him. Then even as the governor is inside the assembly, the CM gets up and moves a resolution against him. So you also did whatever you could do to humiliate him. And then you object to him walking off. Now, I could understand that you want him to get out because you did not register your protest in the assembly. You did what you wanted to do in the assembly. Then you have no moral high ground to ask who should get out or not.
Coming to the question, madam, I will tell you it is not the members of the DMK who had raised slogans against the governor when he was speaking. It is the alliance party of the DMK. So
but
DMK
sir, you are the power. You must take responsibility for that. They are your alliance partners.
Yes, they were alliance partners, and it is not new. BJP has done that in Shimla when governor was speaking. When governor was Urmila Singh was delivering her address, BJP had done this. This is a democratic process where legislators from all parties have done this in the past. So you cannot claim only DMK has done that or BJP has done that. So it is two different things. The protest against the governor's speech initially was not for his speech, but for his address outside the assembly calling Tamil Nadu as Tamilagam. So don't mix both of this.
No, I'm not mixing. I'm very much categorically saying that he hadn't even omitted certain parts of the speech. Even before that, he was heckled. But is that the right thing to do? Now, you have heckled him, you have moved a resolution against him. You've done what you wanted to do to show your opposition. You've also been as curt and as abrasive. So then what are you cribbing about?
Who initiated this? Who failed the convention? Who did not follow the convention?
Which convention are you talking about? Which convention?
Convention about skipping the pages, skipping the pages.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Even before he skipped anything, you had already heckled him. You had already attacked him after his Tamilagam remark. You called him an agent of the BJP and the RSS. You said he should go and do what he's doing from the BJP headquarters. You say everything you want to say, yet you want to act like you are not being abrasive.
I will tell you that the protest initially before the speech was what about his comments outside the assembly.
But that's what I'm saying. So what convention did he break when you were heckling him? What convention?
I'm telling you, it has happened in the past. There are very many government speeches where the opposition.
No, you said the governor started this. What are you talking about? Where did this start? This started when he talked about Tamilagam being a better name versus Tamil Nadu. You could say that several bills are pending with him. That's also your skirmish with him. Leave that aside. But that is also a part of what he said outside the assembly, you shouldn't be reacting in such a manner that nobody can express their view.
Madam, that you should be asking to the spokesperson of the BCK of the Congress. I am here.
So you condemn the heckling? You condemn the heckling of the governor?
It is not heckling, madam. It is a democratic process which has happened in the past. BJP has done that too. Okay. Now coming to the point. Coming to the point, madam. Political parties are here to do politics. Governor is not here to do politics. Okay, he cannot choose to omit and add his view. Everybody who
no, but I just had a legal advisor. One second, I just had an expert, a former judge on the show who said the governor has the power to omit certain portions. It's not as if he has broken any constitutional law.
He cannot add. Madam, whatever he read, it is not governor's wish. It is the policy of the government of the day. Okay, he is just a nominee who cannot decide what this government has to do.
He is not deciding that, but he is uncomfortable with certain portions. He omitted that. And as one of our panelists said, he did inform the government that I'm uncomfortable with these portions.
That is a fake news, madam. I will tell you. On 7th, he has signed and agreed to come and deliver the speech which has been drafted.
The same speech, the one that you had on record. Okay.
Yes, we had
I
on
think
record.
Suman
That
C.
is the
Raman
speech
also
he
wants
had
to
signed.
come in. Suman C. Raman, it is clear
Has
that
he
both
signed?
sides, one second sir, one second, both sides clearly don't like each other. There's a history of the statements that have been made by the governor that irk the Dravidian party in power, DMK. There's also a history of bills not getting assent on time. But there is, again, there is also a grey area there. There is no time limit in which the governor has to send back the bill. Governors can hold the bill as well. But leave that aside. My question is that both sides are being abrasive, right? You look at the posters today. That's also not really in keeping the prestige of the governor's office.
So the governor should act in a way that is that the prestige of his office is not sullied. Unfortunately, this governor does not seem to have acted in that manner. My sympathies are with the government. I think that they have been pushed to the wall. They've been frustrated. Their bills are not getting approved. They are not getting rejected either. And what do you want them to do? So I think that, look, what happened in the assembly yesterday, there are two very clear issues here. The speech is the speech of the government. It is not the governor's address. It is called the address by the governor, but it is actually a statement made by the state government. So whatever the democratically elected government gives to the governor, as long as it is not violative of the constitution, he should read it out. It is not his personal view. He is not articulating his opinion here. He could speak that out. I have no problem with him saying whatever he wants to in the various functions that he attends. But this is inside the assembly. This is a convention that has to be followed. And look, at the end of the day, walking out before the national anthem is played, I don't think it sort of fits in with the high office of the governor.
Yeah, but on that issue, Suman, can I come in on that issue? You can argue that the governor also couldn't really handle the situation very well. But did the chief minister handle it very well by moving a resolution against the governor right there and at that time? Didn't they compel him to just to go away?
The proper response to that would have been that the governor was in the chair, speaker was not in the chair. So whatever resolution the chief minister moved then had no legal sanctity. He only said, and if I remember right, he said that he proposes to move a resolution.
Yeah, proposes.
So,
no, but why do that? You are doing that knowing that this resolution is not going to happen, only to humiliate him.
No. If look, whatever it is, if he felt humiliated, he could have left after the national anthem and communicated that humiliation to the government.
So you are saying he should sit there and take the humiliation, even if the government is humiliating him, but not leave beforehand. But the government should go ahead and humiliate the governor.
No, it's not about humiliation. He violated the protocol first. So the government violated, if the chief minister violated the protocol, he did so after the governor had violated the protocol.
So that's exactly my point. Both of them did what they did. Then nobody has a moral high ground. Now the government could have said that, listen, we tolerated it and we behaved in a manner that was not that was becoming of the state government. But they also did what they wanted to do.
Started this fight? Who started this problem in the assembly yesterday? Look, the opposition parties in many fora have the right to raise slogans and they have the right to walk out. Yes, I think the allies should not have raised slogans for 10 minutes. They should have raised slogans for a minute or 2 minutes and then walked out because they were proposing to walk out, planning to walk out anyway. But my point is the governor clearly, and look, what was objectionable in the text? I can understand if there was something which was violative of the constitution, the governor said, look, I can't read out this, absolutely fine. But what was violated? They are speaking about
Can I bring in the BJP
model.
representative on this? Because the AIA, DMK and the BJP in some senses have been supporting the governor and his moves. Is it not wrong on the part of the governor, Mr. Tirupati, what he did yesterday? He is being deliberately abrasive to the state government. While the governor's office needs to be respected, you have to understand that the actual representative of the public and its wishes and the powers rest with the chief minister and his council of ministers. There's no point fighting with that power as a governor.
He is not at all wrong yesterday. He has done his duty. He has done what he is expected to do. And he has the right to omit or avoid any lines from the speech that was given to him.
But he seems to be omitting stuff he doesn't like at a personal level, not really something that has any legal or constitutional argument against it.
There is no compulsion that he should read it. No law says that he should read it, right? We need to understand this. He has got he may have so many reasons to avoid that. He has got that right. Yeah, after all, he is reading that. You should understand. So he will definitely avoid whatever is not true mentioned in that. And we don't know. It is not our job to investigate into this. But we need to understand whatever the wrong has been done only by the Chief Minister and the DMK people. The Tamil Nadu legislative laws very, very clearly says that if at all, if any of the member obstructs or intervene during the course of the governor's address or before the course of the governor's address or after the governor's address, if any member obstructs or intervenes, that member should be punished. He should be taken action. He should be punished for his action by the speaker. I am demanding that the speaker should punish the DMK members. My friend DMK spokesperson said there were no DMK members, but there were DMK members who were shouting, and the DMK allies, the assembly members. And lastly, after the speech of the address of the governor, it was the Chief Minister, Mr. M.K. Stalin, who tried to interrupt, who tried to disturb the governor. So he should be punished. Action should be taken against him. So the entire media is asking questions against the governor and asking questions against the BJP. No one dared to ask the DMK as to why Mr. M.K. Stalin, the Chief Minister, went unconstitutional yesterday. It was done by them only, and definitely
I think both sides could have handled it a little bit better, but let the DMK representative respond to what you're saying, that fundamentally it's you who didn't act as you should have.
Madam, it started with the governor's address. If he had read what was given by us, by the government of the day, then there was no need for my leader to pass a resolution. Politics is politics, madam. We have accused Governor Ravi of doing this. It is very apparent today that a very
they have the right to insult the governor. He says he has got the right to humiliate the governor as a politician. No two horns are there for a politician. What is this? It is an assembly, and the discipline and the decency should have been maintained.
Government, that is an absolute violation of the law and the constitution. That is absolute violation of the law and constitution, madam. This is really, really disturbing. There is no precedent. You have to have a constitutional amendment to call it Tamilagam. What more is obvious than what Aluna Ravi is doing? That is sheer politics. That is pure politics.
You are mixing two issues. One second. What he does outside of the assembly is one issue. But what transpired inside the assembly is completely another issue. And I think we've had enough experts now elucidate the fact that while the convention is you'll read out the speech by the government is not mandated by the constitution or by the law to do so. We've got an expert saying that very clearly. I'll bring him again. But I want to ask you, Mr. Syed Hafiz, the question about how the government is responding to the governor's ideas and statements at large. Now, this is outside the assembly. I'm not discussing what happened inside the assembly. He talks about Tamilagam versus Tamil Nadu. You've got DMK people coming out and say, oh, you are a BJP RSS agent. Why don't you go to BJP headquarters? This transpires inside the assembly, or he sends an invite, as wrong as you may deem it to be. You run trends about #GetOut. What kind of politics is this? You can't just go back Modi, get out Ravi, as if you are some separate domain. You have to fight with people and debate with people. You cannot just say, oh, we don't want you here. Aisa nahi chalta hai. This doesn't work like that.
Madam, we don't have a problem with political parties doing politics. Understand that. BJP is there to do politics. Aluna Ravi is not here for politics.
But in the past, you have said go back Modi also for the Prime Minister. Why?
That is a part of politics. How many hashtags go back Rahul Gandhi, go back Stalin?
Who has said that? I don't remember trends being run on this. But every time you had the Home Minister or the PM go to Tamil Nadu, you will have these trends. Is this good politics?
It is part of politics, madam. It is part of politics to demonstrate, to protest. Okay, if we use anything unconstitutional, you always have a problem. Discuss with us, put case on us. We don't have a problem. The point again here is simple. The Governor Ravi here is to do politics, which is not good for the office which he is holding.
Okay.
Today, it is a blatant violation of the constitution by not calling himself a Tamil Nadu governor and not inviting people under Rajbhavan Tamil Nadu, but Tamil Alunar.
Okay. Can I bring in Sumansi Raman once again, and I'll go to once again Mr. Muralidharan also. Sumansi Raman, do you sense that the DMK government is a little bit uncomfortable, jittery, or unnerved in handling a governor who has a point of his own? It's almost a childish fight that you can't say this. If you say this, you are so-and-so's agent. The man is voicing, for example, his opinion about Tamilagam versus Tamil Nadu. They could have argued against the idea and debated instead of, slandering him or labeling him.
See, most, or I would say many, if not almost all the opposition states are having problems with governors, whether it is West Bengal or whether the Lieutenant Governor in Delhi
or Kerala.
And almost Kerala, everywhere there are issues where opposition parties are in power. Now, this is very unfortunate because, look, the role of the governor is to help in the overall governance, not to impede it or function as a kind of a block for governance. I have no problem with what Mr. Ravi says in his speeches and his private functions. I think the DMK is probably overreacting to some of the stuff
That was my limited point.
But that is not the point. The point, Shivani, is that the governor is actually blocking governance. If he feels that, and how is he doing that? By using a loophole in the law. Similarly, the loophole that there is no law which mandates that he should read every line or every word of the state government speech. And there is a convention which has been followed for the vast majority of
okay. I have limited time, so let me give Mr. Muralidharan.
Last point, Shivani. I think you are incorrect when you say that the AIA-DMK and the BJP are backing the governor. The AIA-DMK is distancing itself. The BJP is the only party which is backing the governor in Tamil Nadu today. And I believe that they are making a mistake because very simply they are giving ground to the DMK to say that, look, we told you so, that the governor is functioning as an agent of the BJP, and see, the only party that is defending him in Tamil Nadu today is the BJP.
Okay. I'll come to the whole agent of the central government thing, because as I understand, the governor is indeed meant to be an agent of the central government. So what are we doing? What is the hullabaloo about, frankly? It's always been the case where before BJP was in power. It's going to be the case after BJP is not in power too. But Mr. S. Muralidharan, my question to you is this. It doesn't serve either side, and certainly doesn't serve the governor to be standoffish with the state government. The state government is not going anywhere. That's the elected government. What do you see as the future of these two parties?
Yes, it is. See, the governor is being a little arrogant. You can definitely say that because, yes, he's sitting on certain bills, etc. But is this the way to solve the issue, confronting him? I don't think so. If Mr. Karnataka would have been alive, I don't think Mr. Karnataka would do anything such as this, because you heckled him, you insult him, and you expect him to mellow down. I don't think so. That's how he is reacting today. Okay. And I was appalled to see Mr. Sumant Raman in light away saying that he should have walked out after the national. How many times we have seen Mr. Sumant Raman walking out of TV programs?
Okay, let's not get personal. Can I get, one second, let's not get personal. CB Pandey, I have only 30 seconds left. One second, sir, I have only 30 seconds left. CB Pandey, please. Mr. Pandey, as I understand, it is quite clear that the governor is indeed the agent of the central government. So in that regard, when state governments are up in arms that, oh, you're an agent of the central government today is the BJP, is that an argument against a governor?
The governor is no doubt he's the agent of the central government because he is appointed by the central government. But at the same time, governor is bound by oath, and his oath is he will protect, defend the constitution. Under his oath, he says that he is a protector, defender of the constitution. So therefore, unless he acts against the constitution, he cannot be castigated.
Yeah.
But so far, to some extent, if he is doing some politics or to some extent, he is protecting the interest of the central government. So I don't think to that extent he can do it, and they are doing it. It's not
exactly.
The first
so
case.
Is it becoming a trend now in non-BJP ruled states that state governments are also blowing their fights out of proportion with governors purely to make a point against the central government. I have to leave it at that. Let's see how this goes. A big thanks to all of our guests for joining us. On the other side, don't go anywhere. An exclusive conversation with author Sanjeev Sanyal on his new book, Revolutionaries, the other story of how India won its freedom. A book that talks of the armed struggle that won us our independence too, along with the non-violent movement. Just who diminished the role of these fighters from history books? That and more coming up.
Delhi has recorded minimum temperature of 1.9 degrees Celsius as the national capital reels under severe cold wave. A thick layer of fog covered Delhi and its adjoining areas, lowering the visibility. Around 20 flights from the Indira Gandhi International Airport and 42 trains have been delayed due to the foggy weather.
Delhi has recorded its lowest temperature of this season with Safdarjung at 1.9 degrees Celsius. Also, this is the lowest which the national capital has achieved for this winter season. If we talk about the visibility, it is as low as 50 meters in Delhi. Currently, we are reporting from the Kartavya Path area. These are the visuals we are showing you on CNN News 18, that how a dense layer of fog has completely covered the capital city.
With the prevailing cold wave across North India, a normal life has taken a hit across the northern part of India. In fact, due to the prevailing foggy conditions, a lot of trains are being delayed. And in fact, as per Northern Railways, trains bound to the national capital, around 42 trains, such trains have been delayed. The Northern Railways have maintained that 42 trains which are delayed on the Sunday morning are being delayed for around 4 to 5 hours.
Odisha CM Naveen Patnaik, along with Union Ministers Jyotiraditya Scindia and Dharmendra Pradhan, inaugurated direct flight services from Bhubaneswar to Rourkela. This move has been taken ahead of Odisha Hockey World Cup that will commence on January 13th. Naveen Patnaik also expressed his appreciation to PM Narendra Modi for his constant support. A leopard was rescued after it entered a house in Aligarh's Kasba Jawan village in Uttar Pradesh. According to reports, the big cat entered the home after being chased into it by villagers. The officials carried the big cat after it was tranquilized. The resident Sunita said that the leopard tried to attack her, but that she immediately hid in the kitchen.
ऐसे मुझ पे बहरा के पड़ा तो मैं भागी थी धक्का लेके, तो वो तुरंत ही कमरा में घुस गया। कमरा बंद कर देता? नहीं, बंद नहीं कर पाए थे, इतना मौका ही नहीं दिया उसने। हम तो किचन में ही बंद हो गए। पड़ोस वालों ने दी है, हमने कहा था पड़ोस वाले के किच्ची मार रहे थे, तो उनसे कहा, उन्होंने ये कही तुम आप लिख लो, मैंने कि हम नहीं निकल पाएंगे, शेर है इसमें और आप जाओ। उसने किचन पे बाहर नहीं किया, गेट पे नहीं, कोई नहीं बच पाते। वो तो कमरे में ही उसने इन्वर्टर वगैरह तोड़े हैं, लाइट वगैरह सारी खराब कर दी और ये मोटर वगैरह सब तोड़ दी उन्होंने।
A criminal shot and injured a journalist identified as Rajesh Anal in Bihar's Siwan district. The injured journalist was admitted to Sadar Hospital in Siwan after seeing his serious condition. Rajesh Anal was returning home after closing a shop when two bike riders attacked him and fled after firing. Further investigation into this matter is on.
ये मुख्यमंत्री जी आ रहे हैं, माहौल बिगाड़ने के लिए ऐसा किया गया है, दूसरा कोई बात नहीं। जिला का माहौल खराब किया जाए, इसीलिए देखे हैं तो वे बताएंगे, FIR करेंगे तो खुद बताएंगे, अलग कोई बात है, लेकिन माहौल खराब करने के लिए ऐसा किया गया। ये हम प्रशासन से क्या आप लोग चाहते हैं? प्रशासन तो हर वक्त जो भी क्राइम करता है उसको पकड़ कर जेल प्रशासन भेजती है, ये भी जो क्राइम किया है वो जेल जाएगा।
The Assam police intercepted a car and nabbed 2 drug peddlers and one other person near Assam's Jatinga area. The police have recovered 42 narcotic capsules that weigh 20 grams, which the accused kept in small plastic containers. The police have been keeping an eye on the nexus in order to catch them.
एक प्लास्टिक बोतल में मिला था, वहाँ पे छुपा के रखा था, तो टोटल 42 जो छोटा कंटेनर्स है वो मिला है और वेट करने के बाद उसका अराउंड 20 ग्राम्स जैसा मिला है। जितना जो ऑपरेशंस चला रहे थे तो अलग अलग आदमी था, तो उनका जो सोर्स है या किसी का कुछ कांटेक्ट है, उस हिसाब से हम लोग जैसे नज़र रखे हुए थे, जैसे इन्फॉर्मेशन मिला कि ऐसा ऐसा ला सकते हैं, तो उस हिसाब से हम लोग ये ऑपरेशन किया, तो आज सक्सेसफुल हुआ।
2 workers died and 3 people were rescued after portions of concrete slabs of an under-construction building collapsed in Hyderabad's Kukatpalli. Out of the 3 people rescued, 1 worker sustained minor injuries. The injured worker was shifted to a nearby hospital. The municipal corporation also issued a show-cause notice to the building owner for deviating from the sanctioned permit plan.
We are local teams and also other local people helped us to clear all the debris. The 5 people was on the top of the
History has always been the foreground of politics. In fact, history is where most of political battles are fought, and it is fundamental to which narrative wins or rules. And no wonder in recent times, for a young country but an old civilization like India, the main battleground has become history, whether it's our textbooks or outside of it. I'm in conversation with an economist and author today, Sanjeev Sanyal. And Sanjeev Sanyal, you've come out with your new book, Revolutionaries, the other story of how India won its freedom. The title itself obviously tells us that you want to correct in some manner the history that has been told to us about our freedom movement. So give us a little bit of a snapshot of your book. Why this book? Why the effort to, write down the other story? And why is it the other story and not the mainstream story?
So, first of all, thank you very much for having me on your show. Let me say that the idea behind this book is to point out that India's freedom struggle wasn't the uniquely non-violent movement that you are led to believe from the official narratives in your textbooks, documentaries and other things. There was an armed resistance. That armed resistance, by the way, goes back to the 18th century. But this book limits itself to the first half of the 20th century. And the revolutionaries not only were putting up armed resistance, they were not a small group of people. This was a very large network. This network existed, of course, across India, but also existed in Germany, in Japan, in California, in Canada, in Singapore, and Persia, many other places. This network was a very serious effort, but when you read our textbooks, first of all, very rarely are the revolutionaries mentioned at all.
Yeah.
But when they are mentioned, you get the impression that, one fine morning Bhagat Singh got up and threw a bomb. And so they are random acts of individual courage, but deliberately presented to you as if they didn't have any consequence.
Yeah.
But the idea behind the book is to show you, first of all, that these groups were, first of all, large in number. They were powerful enough, even within the Congress, that for example, Netaji was able to win an election against the Gandhians in an open election, so inside the INC. But also that they had a clear objectives, one of them being to cause an insurrection in the British Indian Army. They held up this effort. Many of the characters are the same, by the way, throughout this process. So, Raj Bihari Bose attempts in the First World War to carry out an insurrection in the British Indian Army, nearly succeeds but ultimately fails. But then he is the same person who comes in the Second World War and sets up the INA in Singapore. Contrary to popular belief, it's not Netaji who set up the INA, the Indian National Army in Singapore. It is Raj Bihari Bose who had already attempted to do it in the First World War. So these are repeated efforts by the same people.
And they believed in winning independence more by beating the British, as some would say, by very violent means or by an armed struggle. For some reason in India, even when we were growing up, we were led to believe that it was mostly a peaceful movement or a non-violent movement, and that is the way to go, that somehow violent movements or armed struggles were looked down upon. Isn't that
That's absolutely the problem. The impression you get is that we gently suggested to the British that they should leave and they politely left. Now, I understand that that's what the British historians would like us to believe.
Yeah.
But the question is, why is it that we are ending up believing? But when the overwhelming evidence is that it was extremely violent.
But why is it so, according to you? Is it because the Mahatma Gandhi idea of peace and non-violence was what we wanted independent India to believe in more, and not really the more violent means?
Well, Mahatma Gandhi, of course, was only there till 1948. Much of this changing of history happened subsequent to that in the 1950s and 1960s. And what is important to remember that it was done very deliberately, because one strand, not the entire Indian National Congress, but one strand of the Indian National Congress wanted to tell a particular story. So essentially what the Nehruvians did, they evicted from the story all others that had not from their own group. And it was done very deliberately. So you have, for example, historians like R.C. Majumdar, who had been originally given the job of writing India's official history of the freedom struggle, was evicted because he was not sufficiently pliant. You have, for example, many of the symbols of revolutionary struggle were actually erased. I don't know if people know this, but Cellular Jail was actually almost demolished because it was saved at the very last minute. Similarly, Maulana Azad Medical College in Delhi, it was the site of a prison where many revolutionaries were hanged. In the 1950s, the revolutionaries asked for a small memorial to be built near the gallows. That was not given. First, Nehru agreed to it, but in fact, what happened was that that place was just demolished.
So the memory was erased knowingly and with clear intent.
Absolutely. And the reason this happened, the revolutionaries were not able to put up a resistance to this is because almost all their top leadership had been eliminated by the British. So although it was a very large movement, all their key leaders, almost nobody survived till independence. Whether it's Bismil or Chandrasekhar Azad, Sachindranath Sanyal, Bhagat Singh, you name it, Raj Bihari Bose or any of these great leaders of the revolutionary, Netaji of course famously disappeared or died depending on your belief. None of their great leaders survived till independence. Therefore, even though they had been a very important part of the struggle, they were not given their due. And in fact, even worse, the soldiers of the INA, the sailors of the Navy, Royal Indian Navy, who had revolted in 1946, none of them were actually taken back into the army or the Navy. And they were not even given recognition as freedom fighters till much, much later.
That seems vicious almost, isn't it?
Absolutely, it was absolutely vicious. It's a story that absolutely needs to be told.
So, what you have mentioned, what your central theme of the book is that a lot of these acts, the violent acts or the armed struggle are presented as, here and there individual acts of courage or individual acts of, resistance towards the British, but they didn't have any cohesion, they didn't have any central idea, central ideology or even a central strand. When somebody reads this book, what's the idea they're going to get? And I mean, if you can tease us a little bit about what is a common thread between these revolutionaries.
So many of the ideas of modern India actually emanate from this revolutionary movement. This has actually been hidden. So right from the 1910s, the idea behind this armed struggle was also a very modern idea. So although they drew their inspiration from earlier eras of resistance, whether it's 1857 or Shivaji or Guru Gobind or whatever it may be, the early 20th century revolutionaries were very modern in that they had very modern ideas about how India should be after independence. So, for example, the constitution of the Hindustan Republican Association, written by Sachindranath Sanyal, is the very first place where they clearly mention that after independence, India should be a democratic republic based on universal suffrage.
That's a concept ahead of its time at that time.
Absolutely. That is what we are today. But do remember that when he was writing this, universal suffrage itself was not universally accepted. Very few countries in the world had universal suffrage.
Even the so-called modern countries did not have universal
Absolutely.
suffrage.
It's only in 1928 that all women in the UK got the vote. Many other countries who were supposedly democratic restricted their votes not even to the entire male population, but a small section of the male population. So, first of all, democracy was, there only in a few countries, and even there it was to only a small segment of the population. Women, in many cases, not, even many men were not. So, idea of universal suffrage was a new one. the idea India should be a republic was a completely new one. Remember, the Congress at this point was only asking for dominion status. And even those who were asking for Purna Swaraj or full freedom had not yet enunciated clearly what is it that they wanted afterwards.
What India would be afterwards.
So in fact, there were many debates even within the revolutionaries. I mean, it's quite interesting if you read the debates within the revolutionaries at that time. Even within the revolutionaries, there were those who advocated a constitutional monarchy with Sayaji Gaikwad as the constitutional monarch. So there were other debates, but ultimately it is the revolutionaries, particularly the Hindustan Republican Association, the name itself is evocative, and they came up with the idea, no, we are going to be a democratic republic. And this, there are many things of today that come from this strand, our national greeting, Jai Hind. It derives from the revolutionary movement, from the INA.
The most important thing in establishing the fact that these weren't random individual acts which were, strewn around the place and through the years is to establish if there was indeed a network between these revolutionaries. So in your book, how have you established that they were actually joined by a network or even under an institution? And how has that institution or its ideas lived till today? What are the remnants of those institutions?
So, first of all, it is very important to understand that it was indeed very well connected through, and that is one of the things that I've made.
Not just globally in all of these other countries,
even
but within India.
Absolutely. There was something called the Anushilan Samiti, which was like the overarching network, mostly in Bengal, but then it spread eventually across the country. There were others like Savarkar's Abhinav Bharat, etc., which got linked to this, so that then it became genuinely a big network inside India and outside. And by the way, it is important to remember that the Anushilan Samiti was actually a network of akhadas. Okay, there were always been historically in India, every village, temple, etc. would have an akhada. So networking these akhadas was what they were doing. Now, this network, of course, spread across the world using various other networks as well. For example, the Gurudwaras in North America were a very important part of this network. And so now what happens is, of course, this movement carries on, various things happen, but then because its leadership is essentially killed off in every generation faced it, but certainly by the 40s they had been completely killed off. Nobody survives into, almost very few people at least, survive into independent India. So the various strands of this revolutionary movement essentially reach independent India in a disaggregated, separated kind of way. But they're still around. So, and this is true across the ideological spectrum. The left, right and center have their strands.
From these revolutionary
Absolutely. So just to give you examples. One revolutionary called M.N. Roy ended up in Tashkent in 1920 and he founded the CPI. Another group led by Jogen Chatterjee and others, Trideep Chaudhary and others, and they ended up creating what is called the Revolutionary Socialist Party, the RSP. Now it's a small party, but once it was a reasonably large party. And then there is the RSS. The RSS was set up by the Nagpur head of the Anushilan Samiti called Hedgewar. And Hedgewar RSS is totally based on this idea of a network of akhadas. If you read Sri Aurobindo's Bhavani Mandir, you have essentially, if you just read it end to end, it's 18 pages, so anybody in the audience just Google it up. And it tells you the clear format of how the RSS work. What is a shakha? It's basically an akhada. And therefore a network of akhadas is the Anushilan Samiti.
So today, one of the biggest criticisms in today's politics against the RSS and everything that comes from it, even the BJP, is that you were not around when the Indians were fighting for its freedom. Do you believe that that narrative is wrong?
Well, it's ridiculous to claim that, a party that was formally founded in 1980, that particular organization could not possibly have fought for
Obviously, the BJP was not around.
Yeah, the BJP was not around. But the intellectual strands on which many of these things are based certainly did exist before independence. As I said, by many twists and turns, the strands, intellectual strands going back to the revolutionaries has ended up today through the RSS into the BJP. So the nationalist language they use, whether they're being true to it or not is a matter of debate.
Yeah.
But certainly the language they use, the ideas they have, many of them go back to this early period of revolutionary movement. And by the way, there are many twists and turns and splits along the way in all of these leftover fragments. So, for example, the CPI. The CPI started out in Tashkent, led by M.N. Roy, but M.N. Roy himself drifted off from the movement. So the CPI ironically ended up being controlled, partly on one branch of it by the Russians and some branch of it by the British communists in the 1930s. So during the Second World War, the CPI actually sided with the British. So, so there are many twists and turns, and in fact, that's how the RSP came to be. The Marxists who were very suspicious of colonial takeover of the communist movement, then split off and created the RSP. So they were called the Anushulan Marxists, and then later on the RSP. So there are many branches, splits, all kinds of things are happening along the way. How it has ended up today and how they fit in is a complicated thing, because obviously the ideological debates of today are very different from the ideological debates of 100 years ago.
But just generally speaking, don't you think in India the ideological divides of today are overbearing on the history and how we should view it? I mean, for some reason we are unable, there's a certain thought that you cannot accept so and so as a legitimate part of India's freedom struggle, even for example the recent debates on Savarkar, because you disagree with him, but there is a general sense of not being able to accept all kinds
Absolutely,
who contributed to it.
There is, Indian freedom movement was a very wide movement. The Congress itself was a very big tent in which the revolutionaries had a very important part as well. You hear sometimes about the extremists versus moderates, but the fact of the matter is that's the wrong way to tell. Tell the story. The Lal Bal Pal, why they were being called extremists? Well, they were asking for freedom. Hello, that's not a particularly extremist idea. The moderates, on the other hand, were making small-time petitions. So if you take it from the language of the revolutionaries, they thought of one group as the nationalists and the other group as the loyalists. So you see, you have to be very careful about what you extrapolate into today's politics.
So let me ask it bluntly. Do you think today's Congress is a little bit nervous about the other story of how India won its freedom, as you call it, and the revolutionaries' role, and others who they may ideologically differ from, but accepting them as legitimate parts of India's freedom struggle?
Well,
I'm
not a politician. It's up to them to judge, but it is absolutely wrong for any group to try and delegitimize other branches of the freedom struggle. And by the way, I have talked here largely about the revolutionaries, but do remember that the revolutionaries themselves were part of a wider landscape, which included peasant movements. For example, the Eka movement led by Madari Pasi, or the large number of tribal revolts that happened. And they were, all of these Eka movement or these various tribal revolts, all of them had a very close link to the revolutionaries. They had very, Alluri Sitaramaya Raju, now popularized by RRR, was himself a revolutionary. Similarly, there are parts of India that are not a part of the story today, but are actually, when seen from a revolutionary perspective, very important. For example, Manipur. Now, nobody hears of Manipur in our freedom discourse, right? But let me tell you about Manipur. Manipur was the place where there was the last resistance of the traditional nobility against British rule. In 1890, the Manipuri nobility rose in revolt. This is the last spark of traditional elite against British rule. It is also the first part of India that got liberated by Subhash Chandra Bose's INA. So the liberation of, so the role of Manipur is absolutely critical. In fact, it is one of the very few places where the revolutionaries actually achieved political power. So you see some of the early chief ministers, etc. of Manipur, they had their roots back in the INA attempt to liberate India. That's very, very unique. When many other places there were absolutely suppressed and kept out of the story. So Manipur, again, as I said, you wouldn't think of it as a particularly important part of Indian history. It isn't if you see it from the other perspective. But if you see it from the revolutionary perspective, absolutely central to the story.
Now, the tragedy here, Sanjeev, is that a lot of it is being written in books by authors like yourself, but it is not really finding its space in Indian textbooks. I mean, the Education Minister, Dharmendra Pradhan, only recently was on record to say that from this year onwards, in fact, from this month onwards, India's real history will be taught. Now, I know that it's a larger question, what is real and what is not so real, but when are we going to actually have the change in Indian textbooks to reflect all of these strands of the revolutionaries and others and all kinds of people who came together to win India its freedom, or the more wholesome collective, picture of India's freedom movement? Isn't that what is required?
I think there is now general acceptance of the fact that we need to have new textbooks and tell our Indian story from an Indian lens. And this is not just about this little bit of history. There are all kinds of colonial era, Marxist and other layers of distortions that are there in our school textbooks. They now need to be replaced with a more fact-based story. Now, for doing this, we need to first establish the facts, tell a story, test it in the general population so that there is wider acceptance of it. The idea is not to replace one bunch of lies with another bunch of lies. The point is that it must be properly researched. So the scholarly work had to be done. It had to be road tested. This book is one part of an effort to get people to respond to the other narratives. And then it then seeps into, so one shouldn't do it the other way around, because otherwise what will happen, first of all, you'll end up with shoddy scholarship. And then, it's a debate between two sets of distortions, which is not what you want. Two, you need wider acceptance of whatever it is
so
you're
that it
telling.
cannot be reverted or changed back either.
Absolutely.
Once that change is made, it has to be acceptable enough that it continues to be in our textbooks, because we don't want it to be governed by who's in power at that time.
Absolutely. So once you've got people to know about Anshul and Samiti, you know the contributions of Netaji and Raj Bihari Bose and Bismil and Ashfaqullah Khan and all these people, you know why they were doing what they were doing, then you see extracting them is not that easy. I mean, let's face it, despite decades upon decades of a particular narrative of the Congress being thrust, these names did not disappear. All that was achieved, they managed to do, is to separate them into compartments and sort of diminish them. They were not able to cause them to disappear. After all, enough material remained that I was able to come and write this book.
So, no, but that effort has to be done now. If we let that be another 100 years, who knows? So even that might be wiped off.
The good news is that there is now a momentum. There are other writers other than myself who are also doing this. There are academic historians. And then, it becomes a momentum. And by the way, we are here talking about history. This has to be done in other fields of social sciences as well. I mean, the way our economics textbooks are still taught, you would get the feeling that the Soviet Union is still around.
Finally, I think, would you say time has come that Indians also accept that we were quote-unquote violent and our armed struggle was equally important? I don't know why we carry a little bit of baggage, or there is a little bit of shame.
Why are we apologetic about it?
There's a little bit of shame associated with it.
We were a country under occupation for hundreds of years by foreigners who came here and exploited us and did horrible things to us. Some of this happened within living memory. I mean, the Great Bengal famine happened in just 1943. There are people around who remember it. And tens of millions of people died in famines and plagues and so on that happened under colonial rule, and even before that under Turkic and Mughal rule. Why should we be apologetic about the fact that we put up resistance? After all, the French are not apologetic about the resistance against the Nazis. The Irish are not apologetic about the resistance they put up against the same British rule. Or the Americans, they, what Washington and his soldiers did against the British imperialists in the United States. Why have we been taught to be apologetic about the fact that we did what is entirely human and natural, to put up an armed resistance against the occupation of our country?
All right, Revolutionaries, the other story of how India won its freedom. Thank you so much for speaking to us, and many congratulations once again.
Thank you.
Thank you. From the time of the accident till the body was finally found on the road, nobody gets to know, despite the fact that an eyewitness is calling the police and is in touch with them.
Whatever Pakistan does is not talked about. What India does becomes the, the whole aspect structure of the entire Western narrative.
Yes, there was pain. Nobody is doubting the hardship and pain that people had to go through. But virtually 2 months after demonetization, you had the Uttar Pradesh election and the BJP won its biggest electoral victory in the biggest state in this country.
जैन समाज सड़क पर है, अपोज कर रही है, तो आप उनके साथ क्यों नहीं खड़े? उनका डिमांड बहुत ही सिंपल है. वो कहते हैं कि होली पिलग्रिमेज टाउन डिक्लेयर कर दिया जाए rather than a tourist spot.
Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narsimhan. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a nation that is in doldrums. 2,100 rupees for a kilogram of atta is what is the cost in areas like Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Out of the 4 provinces, 2 of them hurtling towards balkanization. A nation in disarray in 75 years of its history. But it's obsessed with only one entity, Bharat, and coveting that something that doesn't belong to them. But however, they want to hurt Bharat. Their obsession of bleeding India with 1,000 cuts. Their obsession to hurt Hindus, Hindutva, and of course anything that is dear to Hindu Astha is something which is paramount. But more importantly, it's their desperation, because there is only one narrative that is still keeping them afloat. Doobte ko tinke ka sahara. It is that thinka or that straw that is the Kashmir narrative. And to try and stoke that divide, they're trying to expand PAN across North India, because Kashmir is gridlocked right now in terms of security since the abrogation of Article 370. That narrative also slipping away. So now we've got big inputs, and let's go straight across to that. Our investigations editor Manoj Gupta saying that they will do, the Pakistanis and Pakistan-backed entities will do anything and everything to derail the Bharat story, and that is centered around Ram Rajya as envisaged in our constitution, and they will attack Ram Mandir. They do not want Pak-based terror entities, these jihadi tanzeems which are being brought up and nurtured by the Pak establishment, will plan attacks to derail the construction of the Ram Mandir, the completion of the Ram Mandir by December 2023 for its inauguration in Jan 2024. So clearly, attacks are being planned, and the planning is major. It's being done for major optics. It will be done via using fidains or suicide bombers who will be brought in via Nepal. The ammunition for it will also be routed via that porous border that Nepal shares with Uttar Pradesh, and then will be brought towards the Devbhumi or Ram Bhumi of Ayodhya. So Ram Janmabhoomi, major target before opening in 2024. There have been multiple attacks at the Ram Mandir in the past, at Ram Janmabhoomi in the past. Even when Ram Lala was in a tent, now Ram Lala is Virajman there and a Bhavya Ram Mandir is being built. They don't want the construction to happen. There are entities sadly within India who would perhaps be smiling at the prospect of destruction of Ram Mandir, but this is all being fomented. The idea is being fomented by those who see their narrative slipping. So the motive of the groups is to trigger communal disharmony and social strife in our country, and again drive that wedge between Hindus and Muslims. Now the reasons: one, first, ISI is frustrated after a successful abrogation of Article 370. They see the Kashmir narrative slipping from their hands, not just locally but also globally. Infiltration attempts thwarted successfully. Of course, the entire drone drops, the narco-terror route have also been gridlocked. OGWs have been cracked down upon. 57 of their commanders, terror group commanders, have all been neutralized out of the 186 in 2022. Pak tunnels have been identified. Narco front has been busted. So this is the third reason. The fourth reason is the ISI relevance is based on provocations against India. So the military establishment finds itself thoroughly weakened and destabilized, because that entire narrative post-71 has been about bleeding India with 1,000 cuts, and that's not happened. They can't beat us in a straight war, and even in the proxy war, the attrition, the cost of this proxy war is increasingly becoming more and more expensive and dearer to the Pakistani establishment. Attack on Ram Mandir would sow seeds of communal discord, and would be seen as an attack on Hindus and the BJP government. So this is what is happening. But even as we speak about this, and we were going to talk at length about this targeting the beacon of Hindutva to attack Hindutva directly, there comes a message from the RSS Sarsang Chalak Mohan Bhagwat, who sent out a very stern message to Muslims in India, saying there is no need, Muslims have nothing to fear. So this is the fresh assertion. It's a written interview response to Panchajanya, an organizer, in Hindi and in English. The message is very clear. There is nothing for you to fear in this country. There is nothing for you to fear. But don't push this supremacy narrative. Don't try and push this supremacy narrative. Shed this supremacy narrative is what? What is this supremacy narrative is something that we will dwell upon with our panel of experts, even as we look at this entire attack or targeting the beacon of Hindutva to attack Hindutva. Here is a message, and I quote, "The simple truth is that Hindustan should remain Hindustan. There is no harm to Muslims living today in Bharat. If they wish to stick to their faith, they can. If they want to return to the faith of their ancestors, then they may. It is entirely their choice. There is no such stubbornness among Hindus. Islam has nothing to fear. But at the same time, Muslims must abandon their boisterous rhetoric of supremacy. हम 30% ही हिंदुस्तान पर राज करेंगे, तुम 70% क्या देश चलाओगे. This is a conversation, and this is something which has been said for more than 100 years. And I'll quote you on that, and I'll show you where it has been done. But let's go across to Siddhant Mishra, who's joining us with more on the phone. Siddhant, a very, very detailed interview talking about COVID, India's handling, the rise of Bharat, the role of the RSS, the evolution of the RSS, but more importantly, this RSS Hindutva narrative out to get Muslims. Mohan Bhagwat saying there is nothing for anybody to fear in Hindustan. But Hindustan must remain Hindustan. Don't change the DNA of Bharat.
Well, that's right, Anand. It's very rare that Bhagwat give interviews or interacts with media. This is one occasion where he has given this written interview to the organizer. And in fact, there are multiple takeaways in this interview, but the most significant one is being highlighted by you, Anand, where he says that Muslim has nothing to fear at all.